skills? No. The reason why I came here was to work on my listening skills. See, my ex-girlfriend told me repeatedly that I was a terrible listener. Every evening, she would give me a call and give me the rundown of what had happened that day. Oh, you won't believe what my professor said when he handed back the papers today. Oh my gosh, my mom has a date with the cutest guy at the office. It's going on this Saturday, and I'm so excited. They moved the study session from this week to next week, Tuesday at 6 o'clock. I got so much reading I have to do between now and then. I tried so hard to pay attention to every single detail, but if I missed one, I was reamed for it. How could you possibly have planned this big dinner for us Tuesday night? I told you last week that I had a study session tonight at 6 o'clock. And I'd be standing there in my apron, holding a spatula, trying to decide which would be a better apology. I'm sorry I forgot, or I'm sorry I wasn't listening. Yeah. Listening is a big problem for people. It's causing breakups across the country. But more than that, it's decreasing worker productivity. Earlier this month, I spent 15 minutes on the telephone with someone trying to get to the correct support person. The reason why it took so long wasn't because I was on hold. The person wasn't listening to what I was telling them. It's a big problem. So tonight, what I want to talk about is what I believe a big problem, and I want to talk about listening. I want to explain to you the reasons why I believe listening is a problem and what's causing it, and then I want to talk about some techniques that I employ to be what I hope is an effective listener. I believe that we are ineffective listeners because we live in a day of too much multitasking. Think about it. You can literally be driving down the freeway, punching in directions on your GPS unit, listening to your voicemail, and getting caught up on the news while listening to the radio, all at the same time. You might laugh. It can actually happen. And because of this, I actually feel as though if I'm just driving down the road, I'm being unproductive. But this extends outside of the car as well. When I'm at home, I can't get any work done on my computer unless I know that the dishwasher's running, I'm doing some laundry, and a movie's on at the same time. Because only then am I actually being ultimately productive. How can I possibly be listening to someone on the telephone if I'm also writing an email or researching a topic on Wikipedia? It's not possible. And all of this is because of too much multitasking. Multitasking is the reason why we are ineffective listeners. All right, so let's say we do put down the paper and we shut off the TV while we're listening. I still have a problem with my mind wandering. I mean, I'll be honest, you guys aren't nearly as interesting to me as I am to myself. I start to tune out. So something has to be done. Is it possible that we can just not listen at all and there's no solution to this problem? Well, I'd like to think not. I'm actually a dedicated student to the discipline of listening, and I'd like to share a couple of techniques that I've learned with you tonight. The first thing that you can do to be an effective listener is take notes. You might want to take notes if you have a problem listening tonight. The second thing you can do is to remove distractions from your listening environment. If you're meeting with a friend, shut off the TV. Position yourself so that you look at them and the walls behind them. You don't have people walking around distracting you in your field of vision. If you're on the telephone's really something that's only an audio. It really only stimulates your ear. So what I do when I'm on the phone and I really need to listen to what's going on, I stare at the ceiling or my favorite thing, the floor. Thank you. So removing your distractions is the first technique. But as I've said before, removing distractions might not necessarily keep your brain from wandering. So I employ another technique. when I'm conversing with someone, I try to make the conversation, when I'm listening to someone, I try to make the conversation a dialogue. I do this in two ways. Number one, I ask them questions about what they're telling me. And the second thing that I do is I will repeat what they have told me. And what this does is two things. Number one, it makes sure that I really understand what they're telling me. And number two, if I know I have to ask a question, then I know I really have to be listening pretty hard. So if you're asking questions and restating what it is that you've been hearing, you'll be a more effective listener. All right, I'll admit, just those three things alone don't always make you a great listener. I mean, sometimes I catch myself in a daydream, even for a few brief seconds, which could be critical. What I do when I catch myself in a daydream is this. I simply say, "I'm sorry. Can you repeat that? I wasn't listening." And you would think that people would be offended, but they're actually not. I've never had someone get upset about it. Instead, what they do is they repeat exactly what they've just said. Listening is a skill that's a difficult one to learn, but if you write stuff down, remove your distractions, offer questions, or make your conversation, listen with a dialogue, I should say, and if you also, can't remember my fourth point, if you also ask them to repeat themselves if you've missed a piece of their conversation, you'll be a much more effective listener. You'll be more productive, and you might even save your relationship. Now, my ex and I weren't able to reconcile our differences, but I'm happy to say that it was her loss, because the girl who's receiving a lot of my attention lately just recently gave me kudos on my listening skills. Mr. Toastmaster.